Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 91 of Petey's Awesome Guest Panel. Now, before we meet tonight's iconic, legendary guest star, I have a couple of things I want to address before we start. And first off, I just want to say, give a big thank you to a gentleman by the name of Mr. Greenwald and Endorse Management for making this wonderful interview happen. And now, before we introduce our guest star tonight, I want to introduce tonight's co-host for the evening. Once again, returning, Mr. Kwame Jacobs and Christopher Petey.
Hey guys, back as always.
Now to introduce tonight's special guest star, you may know this wonderful, iconic woman's work from such projects as Batman, Batman Returns, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and mine and Kwame's favorite, Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue as Queen Banshira. And in addition to that, this wonderful icon is an award-winning actress, theater actress, and voiceover artist, you name it. She's done the whole world. And she's also a award-winning actress as well, as she has won the 2015 Independent Theater Award and the LA Drama Critic Award. My guest at this time is Queen Banshira herself, Miss Diane Salinger. Diane, how are you today? Welcome.
Hello, Petey. It's good to see you, as Queen Banshira would say.
This is awesome. Oh, Diane, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Petey. It's a pleasure to be with you three.
Oh, it's a super honor to have you on. Like I've been a fan of your work for many years, and having you on, I've had many Power Ranger villains in the past on the show, and now I have a queen on the show. Never before have I had a queen on my show.
Well, thank you, dear. Thank you.
Now, the first question I have for you, and this is your typical cliche question, if you will, and that is, how and when did you get started in both acting and the theater industry? Take us there.
Well, the truth is, I was 5 years old, and my mother went into the hospital for a mastectomy, which she didn't know about. And I was home with my father. I had two little sisters. And he started playing all the musicals, and I would sing and dance for him. And that's why I'm an actor. It started when I was 5.
Oh, very.
So that's really it. And I have always thought of theater as a temple. I'm a theater actor. I did it for 10 years before I ever came out here in repertory theater throughout the country. A lot of Shakespeare. Incredible parts that were not from the present day. Most of my work came from like turn of the century, Chekhov and Strindberg, or Shakespeare. I just love Shakespeare, and to this day, I would prefer to do Shakespeare than anything.
Very cool. And Chris, before you ask the next question, you mentioned like Shakespeare. Did you prefer Romeo and Juliet or Hamlet?
Well, I've been in Hamlet, but I was too young to play Gertrude, Hamlet's mother, and too tall to play Ophelia in the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. So I played the player queen. I played, I'm going to get your question, but the player queen is a boy playing a girl. Oh. So it was really interesting playing being a woman, a young woman playing a boy, playing a girl. It was fascinating. It really was. I prefer Hamlet, absolutely. Although I love Romeo and Juliet as well. But my favorite character, whether I'm a man or a woman, my dream would have been to play Henry V. And I love the monologue at the beginning of Henry V, the soliloquy, and I can recite it for you if you want.
Oh, please, please.
You really would like it?
Yes.
In fact, I was just talking about Agincourt today. Okay, this is Shakespeare's Henry V, the soliloquy, and this introduces the audience, the English audience, to this incredible battle that was, and part of the 100 Years' War. And finally, because of Joan of Arc and other valiant souls in the French, we actually kicked them out of France. but the tables really turned. And when Henry V first got to Agincourt, they had this enormous battle. So this is Shakespeare glorifying what I call as the enemy, because I love Joan of Arc so much, but this is Shakespeare glorifying Henry V. And it goes like this. It's about you. Shakespeare is asking the audience to use their imaginations. That's why I love this so much. Do you really want me to do it?
Oh, lay it on us.
Okay.
By all means.
All right, here we go. I haven't rehearsed it or anything, and I haven't said it in a long time, but hold on.
You got this, legend.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention, a kingdom for a stage, princes to act, and monarchs to behold the swelling scene. Then should the warlike Harry, like himself, assume the port of Mars, and at his heels, leashed in like hounds, should famine, sword, and fire crouch for employment. But pardon gentles all. These flat, unraised spirits that hath dared on this unworthy scaffold to bring forth so great an object. Can this cockpit hold the vasty fields of France? Or may we cram within this wooden O the very casks that did affright the air at Agincourt? Oh, pardon, since a crooked figure may attest in little place 1,000,000. And let us, ciphers to this great account, on your imaginary forces work. Think, when we talk of horses, that you see them printing their proud hooves in the receiving earth, for 'tis your thoughts that now must deck our kings, carry them here and there, jumping o'er time, turning the accomplishment of many years into an hourglass, for the which supply, admit me chorus to this history, who prologue like your humble patience pray, gently to hear, kindly to judge our play.
Wow. After hearing that, I can honestly say, Diane, this is the reason why you are the personification of poetic and majestic as an actress.
Thank you, dear. I love Shakespeare because it's so cinematic. And I don't remember lines very well, but Shakespeare, I remember every single line because it's like watching a movie.
Very cool.
There is one part I left out, but it's really cinematic, so I want to go and say it. Suppose within the girdle of these walls are now confined 2 mighty monarchies, whose high, upreared, and abutting fronts the perilous narrow ocean parts asunder. Piece out our imperfections with your thoughts. Into 1,000 parts divide one man and make imaginary puissance. Then it goes on to think, when we talk of horses, that you see them printing their proud hooves in the receiving earth, for 'tis your thoughts that now must deck our kings, carry them here and there, jumping o'er time, turning the accomplishment of many years into an hourglass. For the which supply, admit me chorus to this history, who prologue like your humble patience pray, gently to hear, kindly to judge our play. Oh, just love it.
Wow. And
Very nice.
that was, and with the way you presented that though, and that's going to lead to our next question, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yes,
what are your
Chris.
methods and preparations? What are your methods and preparations for like specific roles, and what's the process like when you get ready for film?
Well, it really varies. It depends on the project itself. I work very internally most of the time. And I first, like Meryl Streep does this too, she looks at, and I look at, what do I have in common with the character? That's the first thing I look for. And then I personalize that. And then I use my imagination, just like Shakespeare is asking us to do in Henry V. But sometimes I work from the outside in, very rarely, but it's more like the British approach, which a lot of English actors work more from the outside in, not so much in film, but in theater. And for Batman Returns, I got all these high society, books of incredible photographs of high society people in the 20s and 30s. And there was one woman who was a cello player, a very important cello player, and she had these curls that were kind of sticking out like this. And I thought, oh, that's perfect for this part, because in the mother in Batman Returns is just going nuts over this penguin baby that she has, that they finally throw over the bridge. And I thought, so her hair should be just like it's electrocuted, you know? So I started from the outside in on that one. But I'm very different in every role I play. And the highest compliment I ever got was a friend of mine saw Bird about Charlie Parker, and Clint Eastwood directed it. And he didn't even know it was me. So I just love that. I respect the actors the most in film and theater who can transform themselves, like Tilda Swinton, like Meryl Streep, like Jack Nicholson. Although he's got always this kind of nod, wink, wink to the audience, you know. But I love actors who can really transform.
And and this next question, Kwame, you had one, right?
Kwame, what would you like to ask, sweetie?
All right, let's see. Did you always wanted to become an actress?
Since I was 5, I wanted to be a nun, an astronaut, or an actress. And they're actually very similar. And I wrote to Alan Shepard, who was the first man in space, for 15 minutes. And I was 10 years old at the time. And he wrote back and sent a picture. And I thought it was a personal letter to me. I really, all three of them, a nun, an astronaut, or an actress, they're all about transcending, about going beyond oneself. So they are very similar in a weird kind of way. But I've always wanted to be an actress. But now I'm much more interested in, I'm auditioning, and I just did a movie last year, a really wonderful, wacky part it's from a movie called Things Like This, and hasn't been released yet.
Oh, okay. I had another question too, Diane, and this one I ask all my guest stars when they come on the show, and that is if you were given a scenario in which you were doing a scene in a particular movie or even theater work, and the actor, let me say theoretically, if you and I were working together, like in a scene, and this scene requires us to get into a heated argument. And I know this is going to sound weird, but I would tell you, Miss Salinger, and I would say Miss Salinger because I have so much respect for you. I would tell you in this scene, it requires us to get into a very heated argument. Now, I know this is going to sound very weird, but I need you to lambast me and lay into me so hard that you can make me cry. That way, we not only tell a story, but that way it feels real to the audience. If you were approached with this type of method, what would you tell that particular co-star of yours, and how would you react to that method?
I wouldn't say anything to them about it. It's shock and awe, like like Schwarzkopf in the Iraqi War, Desert Storm, shock and awe. I wouldn't prepare them at all. I would just go into it. And how I would approach it, because I start from myself, even though I'm so different with every part I play, because think about it, every single one of you, all three of you, and anyone listening to this or watching it, you know that within a single day, even like within an hour or two, you're different people. You're not the same person. How many of us are there? There are 4 of us. The 4 of us are different people than we were when we first began this Zoom meeting. And so we have so many parts of ourselves. So I would contact a part of myself when someone, I love playing villains. They're my favorite parts to play.
Yeah.
And, you know, the thing I tell my students about when they play villains or auditioning for them is that a person, nobody is bad. Nobody is really bad. What they're trying to do is that their power has been taken away from them, and they're trying to get their power back. And it's usually by making someone feel small or killing them or whatever. But it comes from a rage inside, and you're trying to get your power back. I don't think of any of my parts as villains. They're just trying to get their power back. I would find where the hurt is inside me, that, you know, and I would relay it as much as possible to the story. But, you know, where do I hurt? And who do I want to hurt to get back at so that I can feel better, so I can get my power back?
I see. And
I mean, I'm not a kind of actress, you know. I tend to be very thoughtful.
Thoughtful. I had another question too, and I could be wrong on this, but what was your memories of filming? I believe this was your first film. Again, I could be wrong on this. Your first film, Creature as Melanie Bryce.
Oh boy. Yes, it was my first movie. I had just come out from New York City, and it was my first audition, and I was determined to get it. And apparently when I drove into where we were holding the auditions, the writer-director, Bill Malone, saw me in the car and said, "Oh my God, that's Melanie Bryce." I was so determined to get this.
Now,
Totally fine.
Chris and I are a huge fan of the Pee-wee series, and this is so our next question. And I know you've been waiting for this question, Miss Salinger, and that is memories of shooting the 1985 classic Pee-wee's Big Adventure as Simone and working with Paul Reubens.
It's my favorite movie I've ever done. And one day I came to the set when I wasn't working, and it was a scene where Judd Omen, who is so brilliant as the convict, and Pee-wee are falling from the convertible. You know, they go off a cliff in the dark in the forest, and then they fall, and then they hug each other, and then the convict pushes them away, and then they're falling and screaming, and then finally the canopy of the rooftop of the convertible opens, and it acts like a parachute, and they go softly down. And so I was watching this scene being shot, and I'm very intuitive, psychic. And I went up to Paul and Tim Burton after they shot this, and I said, listen, I'm really intuitive. You have no idea how big a hit this is going to be. It is, I couldn't tell when I was in the scenes because I'm so involved in the scenes, but and it's come true. And Danny Elfman, the wonderful composer, Tim's composer and everything he does, that was the first movie Danny worked with him. And I saw Danny just a couple years ago, and I said, you know, I think it's Tim Burton's best movie. And Danny said, yeah, I do too. It's just a masterpiece, and it's timeless. It's as funny today as it was back then. It's completely out of time, and that's an occult movie. That's a cult class, not occult, but it's a cult classic. It's amazing.
It's one of a kind.
Totally one of a kind. I mean, the character that Paul plays is a lot like Jerry Lewis's character. You know, like
the Nutty Professor.
It's that eternal boy, you know, and it's very prominent in our society. And You know, you can be a great actor, but unless you capture an archetype of that time, you're not going to be a star. And well, there are exceptions like Meryl Streep or incredible Kate Blanchett, who should be winning the with Tar, but she won't. But she should be. She's gave the greatest performance of the year in Tar. But most of these movie stars are, you know, they're an archetype for that particular time. And Jerry Lewis was it. Then Paul was it. It's, you know, the boy, the crazy boy. You know. And so that's one memory I have. And Paul was really, really generous. And my first day of shooting, he said, and we shot, it was a later scene, it was the Alamo scene where I'm getting on the bus, and I said, oh, I didn't know. Just, you know, he's telling me that there's no basement in the Alamo, and I go, oh, I didn't know. And I'm getting on this bus because I'm going to Paris. And Paul said to me, you know, I can kiss you, I can, you know, hug before you get on the bus, and it can either be my face in front or your face. And he said, I'm going to make it your face. And I said, oh, that's so sweet. He was incredibly generous, and I hadn't done many movies at that time. It was so sweet. The other memory I have is Large Marge. It was her first day shooting. And we were in I was in the hair and makeup trailer, and it was, we shot that scene at the bus stop. It's near the equestrian center, LA Equestrian Center, and it was really hard to find. It was all these roads that go like this, like the Pee-wee movie. And I was already getting made up. And the whole bus went like this. The hair and makeup bus went like this when this woman got on the bus. I mean, I've never seen a bus move like that. And she comes on and she goes, God damn it. You know, I couldn't find the place. Ah! And she's going on like cursing and like this. And I went, she must be Large Marge. Yeah.
Memories.
She was an amazing. She was just the way she was. Her eyes didn't pop out, but she was just the way she was in real life. And then that same day, it was when we were shooting the dinosaur scene, the exteriors of the dinosaur scene in Cabo-San. And my boyfriend, I just met him, Andy, and I'm shrinking now. I'm only like 5'9 3/4, but I was 5'11 at the time. This guy, Andy, came up and he was in his costume, and he was like, I mean, he must have been like 6'8", 6'7". And so my head came up to his belly button, and I'm not short, as I said. And he had this big belly, and I just patted his belly when I first met him. And I said, oh, great padding. And he said, it's not padding. Like this. So we didn't get off to a great start, but you know, he seemed like a sweet man. God rest his soul. Yeah. So those are memories. And then when, you know, I was there when they were shooting the scene, you know, with Pee-wee is riding the Bronco and he's holding on, and it was a body double. And this poor guy, he had on Pee-wee's big hat, looking like a cowboy. And oh my God, this Bronco that he was riding, or the bull, I think it was a bull he was riding. The bull knocked him off and he fainted right then and there. It was like he got the wind knocked out of him, and he was lying on the ground, and they were worried that they didn't have enough footage, that they got him on the Bronco before he fell off. You know, I mean, it's these kind of things that you know, remember for the rest of your life.
Oh, I see. And Kwame, your next question?
Okay. What was your favorite line or scene in Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
Ah, I know that one. let's talk about your big butt.
That would have to
Okay.
be the one.
Paul says this to me. He says, come on, Simone. Everyone I know has a big butt. Let's talk about your big butt. That's my favorite line. It's my absolute favorite line.
Chris, you had a question from Miss Salinger?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure. You have any funny behind the scenes stories that you can share while shooting the film itself, besides the ones you already shared?
I have a funny one for Batman Returns.
What's that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go on.
Well, Paul and I were getting ready to shoot this scene, and I had Julia Roberts' wig on that was, you know, as I said, I wanted this hair to be sticking out, you know, with these wild curls. And the wig woman was brilliant. And so I'm in the wig and I'm in all this elegance, you know, and I'm a very serious actress. Especially back then, but even today, I'm very, you know, I take it very seriously, and I'm trying to prepare for the scene where our penguin baby's in the cage and the cat goes by, and then, you know, gets the cat gets whipped right into the cage, and then they fight, and she kills the cat. She, meaning this little double, who was so amazing. She was a midget who was the most beautiful face I think I'd ever seen. And she was dressed like a penguin, but she was so gorgeous, this young girl. She was about probably like maybe 20, 22. And so we were getting ready to shoot the scene. And I think we'd already shot the part where, you know, the cat goes by, she grabs it with her claw. And then they had like a stuffed animal that it actually gets pulled into the cage, and then they fight, you know. And the cage was like a rubbery, so that she could get the stuffed animal in like it was the cat, you know. And so then it was our turn to shoot. It was our close-ups, or a two-shot, where we're reacting to this child, and we're drinking our cocktails, and we're beside ourselves. We're not sleeping. We're just, this is the child from hell. And I'm preparing, and Paul, as we're about, you know, they're about to call action, and Paul, and I'm thinking like something really painful, excruciating, you know, in my own life that, you know, would warrant being this upset that your child has turned out to be the devil incarnate. And Paul says, I don't even remember what he said, but it was something hilarious, and I started cracking up. You know, Paul is not like Paul comes from a totally different background. Like, you know, it's the Groundlings, you know, and it's skits, and you know, it's not really internal. It's more like this, and I'm thinking Sturmendrang, this serious drama, and he said something that absolutely cracked me up. I can't remember what it was. I said, "Shut up, Paul!" And then Tim called action, you know, and we had to turn around, and thankfully I still had some preparation left, and my lower lip was quivering, you know, which, if you can see it on a big screen, you can see this. And so that was really funny. And when I first got to the set of Batman Returns, you know, Tim and I had worked together already, and he had been to my cottage, because I said, I have like 5 Southern accents, you know, pick one you want me to do. And he picked the one that was the most understandable. And so we were, you know, we had a relationship. And so he says to me, do you want to come and see, he said, I don't do storyboards like regular directors do. And he came from the tradition of, he was a graphic artist. And so, like Gary Cooper was, you probably don't even know who that is.
I've heard of him, and just like the late great Phil London was a graphic designer too.
Who?
The late great Phil Hartman, who was also in Pee Wee Herman's
Yes,
not Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure, but he was on
he
the Pee
wrote
Wee
it.
Playhouse.
He wrote it. He was one of the writers, yes. And so anyway, I have a story about Phil Hartman too,
Oh,
but
please share that because I'm a huge Phil fan.
oh, well, so anyway, Tim Burton says, do you want to see how I design storyboards? I said, absolutely. So he takes me into his trailer and he shows me this amazing painting that's maybe like over 2 feet high, you know, a real painting. And it's in charcoal. And it was of Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman down on the ground, being licked back to life by all the cats. And it was a painting. He doesn't do storyboards like regular directors do. He paints. And then he had a show in LA and we all went to the opening of it at a gallery, and it was his paintings, you know, from his movies. That's how he creates storyboards. That's so brilliant. And anyone listening to this who's a wannabe director, even writer, this is an amazing way to create scenes.
Ah, I see. And of course, did you have a favorite line from Batman Forever?
Well, my darling, it was completely silent for me and Paul. We never talked in it. The whole thing was silent, like a silent movie.
It's a correction. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say Batman Forever. It was Batman Returns. Pardon me.
That's all right. No big deal.
And you were also in the 2016 Pee Wee's Holiday, I believe it was called Pee Wee's Big Holiday. Memories of shooting that for Netflix.
Yes, yes. Well, Paul had been through a lot with the big scandal that happened. You know about that. It happened before Batman Returns. So, and Paul says he has no memory of standing up at the MTV Awards and saying, "Aren't any good jokes lately?" And everyone gave him a standing ovation. He has no memory of it. He was so traumatized by it. So that was before Batman Returns. So Pee-wee's Big Holiday. Well, I'll tell you the truth. I tend to do that. I was raised Catholic. I had shingles, which is, I had no idea what it was, and I just found out. And it's rashes all over your body. And I didn't want to let anyone know because it's contagious, but I knew that they couldn't get it because I was fully clothed, and so it was safe. But I had to wear a harness in the scene with the airplane, and I jump out of it and I say "C'est la vie," and then I added "Au revoir, Pee-wee, au revoir," like it's an homage to Pee-wee's Big Adventure, you know. And I had this harness on underneath, and no one knew I had shingles. And I was on an antibiotic, and it was really challenging for me. But I loved flying. Oh my God! Everybody should have one of these bungee cords around them and be lifted up. You know, when you're a kid and you dream of flying, did you guys? Yes,
I've had that.
Mommy, have you dreamt of flying? Okay, Christopher, have you dreamt of flying when you were a kid?
Few times, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, it's amazing in your conscious life as an adult to actually fly like that, because it brings back all these memories. I have to turn this off. It brings back all these memories of these dreams you had as a kid of flying. And this thing was lifting me up out of the plane, and I had, you know, practiced it so that I would wave my arms and legs apart like Da Vinci's man, you know, and then I had webbing in here. The costume designer was amazing, so I looked like a bat. And I said, au revoir, Pee-wee, au revoir. And then it pulled me up about 25 feet. And I thought, this is one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had in my life. Everybody should have this experience of being pulled up and flying with bungee cords. It's amazing. It is so much fun. It's great.
Totally agree with you. I love the dreams about flying.
Oh God, and to go back to those dreams. Wouldn't that be nice?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would love to have those dreams.
Have any of you three had recent flying dreams?
Not recently, no.
Can't say
Well,
that I have.
What?
well, it depends. I mean, flight is my favorite type of superpower because I mean, I've always wanted to fly. It's always been my favorite superpower.
Same here.
So do you dream of this still?
Yeah, flight always.
Really? You still do?
Well, yeah, because out of all the anime I watch, like Dragon Ball Z, you know, Goku. I don't know if any of you guys would know, if most of you would, but that depends.
I watch
'Cause-
Dragon Ball Z.
I mean, I definitely know
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah,
He
well,
can
we watch
fly.
Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, because all characters from Dragon Ball, they can all fly, and I'm like, I wish I had that power so much. I just wish.
Likewise, brother.
So do you still dream of flying?
Yeah,
That's
of course.
fabulous. Congratulations.
Thanks. That means a lot coming from you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Diane,
So yes, and so, but if you ever get a chance, and I've never wanted to bungee jump like off a cliff, you know, go upside down, do that stuff. And I was in New Zealand and I had the opportunity and I just thought, no, I'm not doing that. But I'm telling you, to just be lifted up and you're flying, you are flying, you have no gravity. It's Kwame, congratulations. That is a great feat you're doing, that you're still flying.
Thanks, because every time I dream, I can fly.
What?
I mean, literally. Every time I
Yeah.
dream, I can literally fly.
Nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, Kwame.
I
In
know.
fact, a lot of people consider that to be lucky.
Yeah, I admire you for that.
Kwame,
Yeah.
it's an incredible art. You should write about this. How old are you? Can I ask?
Well, I just had my birthday just a month ago. I'm already 22.
You know, you could go into business if you could help people regain their flying dreams, that they could fly in dreams. If you could make an amazing business doing this.
That would be cool, you know?
Go for it,
Yeah.
Kwame.
Kwame, that's heaven. That's pure heaven, dear. Well, if you can't go back to the flying dreams, I think you can probably with lucid dreaming. But if you on your way, I highly recommend going up with a bungee cord. It's amazing.
It depends how high it is, but I'll take that chance.
Oh yeah, and I had no idea when we were rehearsing that it was going to be like that. And as soon as the first time I went up, I went, oh my God, this is just like in the dreams. It's really wonderful, dear. Yeah.
True.
All right, ask away. What other questions?
Well, another major franchise you were part of was Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and I want to get your memories shooting Star Trek and as your role as Lupaza. Pardon me.
Lupaza.
Pardon me.
Lupaza.
That's all right. It's all right. Well, I thought Nana was amazing on it, and we did some scenes with her, and I loved my part a lot because I got to slap, you know, it wasn't written in the script like that, but there was this incredible chemistry between me and Bill Ludke. God rest his soul. He passed away like a year ago. And I adored this man. He was so funny, and he would come to my trailer and we'd go over lines, and he just had me in hysterics. And so it continued when we'd be on the set. And I kept smacking him, you know, laughing and smacking him. And we had this wonderful chemistry, wonderful time. He was a great guy. I adored him. And we actually shot in this cave in the Hollywood Hills. it was amazing. And then the weird thing is, the deja vu is that, you know, decades later, I'm doing Pee-wee's Big Holiday and in a hot tub with another hunky guy. and we're right outside the cave where we shot Deep Space Nine.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm very excited. I'm also going to be at the Las Vegas Star Trek convention in the beginning of August. And I'm so thrilled because I don't know if Nana's going to be there, but Ron Moore, who was one of the showrunners, one of the producers of Deep Space Nine, and then he was also produced Carnival, which is a series I did, and I really adored this man. He in the meantime, he's done the time travel show Outlander, and he's such an incredible man, and he's going to be there, and I'm so excited. And then this other guy I worked with, Braga, Brendan Braga. He was the executive producer of Salem, which I played the wise elder witch in, and I'm happy to see him too. But especially Ron Moore. He's an amazing man. He would give speeches when we would be reading, you know, doing the first table read at Carnival, and he would recite just amazing stuff, you know, like something from Tolkien, you know, or Once and Future King. He was inspirational. So I'm so happy to see him again.
Hope you have fun at the convention, Diane.
Thank you. I hope you guys come. You're all based on the East Coast?
Yeah. New York,
Well,
right here.
I'm not.
Kwame,
Yeah, at least Pete is. Kwame is in the UK. I'm actually currently stationed in El Paso, Texas.
Oh, okay. And Kwame, you're in the UK right now.
That's where I live, man.
This is pretty late for you, isn't it?
Oh well, it's fine.
Well, anyway, I you know, the convention should be a lot of fun, and Gates McFadden I know, and the guy who directed a lot of the Star Treks, who was an actor in it, I can't remember his name, but I knew him as a theater actor in New York. He's going to be there. It's very sweet. It's very sweet to see these people again.
So cool. And of course, Diane, as I mentioned earlier before, Kwame and I are huge Power Ranger fans. And originally I was going to ask this question, but I'm going to let my fellow Power Ranger brother do the honor. So Kwame,
right,
you ask this question, my man.
You got it. All right, let me find it. There we go. So, what can you tell us about your time in Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue as Queen Banshira?
Yes.
Okay, well, this is, I know, Petey was
you can see the excitement in my face.
About this, and I thought, oh, dear God in heaven. Listen, I came in, I auditioned for it. I made her kind of British. I lowered my voice. I did one of these very, you know, like that kind of thing, you know, my son kind of thing. You know, Queen Banshira commands it, that kind of thing. And queens come very easily to me. Oh yes, beautiful.
Here we go. I had it ready for this.
Beautiful. And I auditioned and I got it. And you know, it was a puppet, and I just came in and would do, you know, the lines for 1 or 2 shows completely in a booth separate from everyone. And then, you know, Scott would give me a couple, you know, directions or different ways of doing it. And I love laughing. And I've gotten movies based on my laugh, one movie in particular. And you know, it was really fun to do. And because I knew, and I was preparing a little bit for this podcast, I actually looked today at some of the YouTube clips of Queen Banshira and the Red Power Ranger in particular, and also Vipra.
Yes.
And
Vipra.
And I thought, this is really interesting, because I know this has had a huge, I was in the Power Rangers convention in Pasadena last year, and I know from people's reaction that when they are children, this character had a huge impact, and Power Rangers too. And I'm looking at this today, and I was thinking, why does this have such an effect on really young children? And the thing I came up with, I mean, there's a lot of pyrotechnics, that are not, overtly gory, but like exciting with the kind of fireworks. But I think the reason why Queen Bathsheba is so popular is because as children, you don't have much power. As little kids, you don't have much power. And here are these Power Rangers who are so much smaller than Queen Bathsheba and some of her other, associates.
Her flunkies.
Her flunkies. But these Power Rangers guys have such courage to keep fighting her and going up against her. And we all come from our mothers, and it's the first thing we know in the womb and afterwards. And they're gods to us. Our parents are gods in the beginning to us, and they're so much bigger than we are. And I think that it was a way of coping with maybe fear of the mother and fear of the mother's anger, because when you have a child, a woman sacrifices so much to give birth. It changes her body, the pain, and then this screaming child that she can't sleep. And the father can get up, but it's probably the mother who's the Dairy Queen, you know what I mean? And so the mother is, there must be, I've seen it with my sisters. I never had kids, but there must be this rage that mothers have that, she doesn't want to have it. But I think the children are so sensitive. They know that mothers are enraged sometimes, whether they overtly show it or not. And here is the evilest, angriest mother of them all. And these Power Rangers just keep coming at her. They just keep, and they're so tiny, but they keep until they're victorious. And so I think it's a way of children taking power.
I can see that. And I can tell you before I get to the next question, Diane, I can tell you a theory on why it impacts children's growing up, just myself and Kwame. It's because of the storytelling and how the story is told. Like every Saturday morning watching Lightspeed Rescue, the way, that you as Queen Bathsheba would act, and the emotions, the raw emotions that I mentioned earlier, like about her son and getting revenge on the Power Rangers. It's amazing storytelling. It makes the audience believe that it feels like real life and it's relatable. That's why it has an impact on kids' life, because it's amazing storytelling and it's believable.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm going to turn on some lights. It's gotten very dark all of a sudden. Hold on.
No worries.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not to worry.
When you just said that, now it's already got me thinking.
What's up, Kwame?
About Bathsheba's rage. The way she described it, the mother's rage.
No, she hit it. She was right on the ball when she said that.
Yeah. And the bit with the puppet of Bathsheba, I think she was mentioning about where she was messed up, in the ceremony that got disrupted, and Imphius thought Bathsheba was gone for good until you saw her like a parasite.
I remember that.
Was she referring to that?
I believe so.
Well, I just watched about 20-25 minutes of all these different scenes, and I thought, wow, this is so interesting, because I had no idea. I mean, I've done these podcasts where it was all Power Rangers, and I began to see the impact there. But when I was in person with these people at the Power Rangers convention in it was called Morphicon.
Yeah,
in Pasadena, and the people, it's like the way Petey, especially your reaction to Power Rangers and in this character, they were all like this, and I didn't understand. I was like, what? because I was in this booth just doing this, this voice, and it was so strange that it's had such an effect. But I think it's the mother's rage, and that kids could actually see small people coping with this huge mother's rage. I think that's part of it. Yeah.
True. And are you going to next year's MorphiCon? Because thanks to my beautiful fiance, I'm actually going to my first MorphiCon next year at Pasadena. So will you be attending? I hope we can.
I don't know. I don't know yet. No idea. I'm going to France for just like the character, just like Simone. I'm going to Paris, France for 3 months. This is my focus right now. But I hope to be. I'd love to be in the next MorphiCon as well. Love it.
I hope so. I hope that we can cross. I hope our paths cross one day.
Yes. Yes.
A couple more questions before we wrap up, and this one is a silly question I asked all my guest stars, and that is, when I'm not on a strict diet, I am it's almost a military diet. I am an absolute foodie, and I know you've been on a lot of production companies in the past, so I have to ask you this: which production company had the best catering scene? And if so, what was your favorite meal in catering?
Bar none. Clint Eastwood. I was working with Forrest Whitaker on Bird, and I was the angel of death. It's actually what the jazz musicians called my character. She was actually a baroness, and she was English. And so, Forrest and I would sit opposite each other, and Clint would come and join us. And the food was, I've never forgotten it. I mean, we had poached salmon and the most delicate asparagus and the most incredible French, like Béarnaise sauce. I mean, my mouth is starting to water now. And this is 85, 86. I mean, I can still taste that meal.
Wow. Yeah. And I love salmon. I do love salmon.
Well, I tell you, his cook, and he was very, very loyal. And when I worked with him in 1985, and my niece was just being born as we did the scene where Forrest, Bird is dying. And I kept going to the phone in between takes to hear what was happening. So it's so weird that my niece was being born as Bird was dying. And, Clint, his whole team had been with him for at least 20 years. He was very, very loyal.
Oh, okay. Kwame, what your final questions you have a final question for Diane?
Yeah, I had 2 of them because I've been looking through them.
Go ahead.
All right, let's see. If there was one TV show or a cartoon series you've always wanted to appear, what would it be, Diane?
I've done some. I mean, there's not one on now that I say, oh my God, I'd give anything to be on. I played a witch on this very short series with Mariel Hemingway called Civil Wars. And I put a curse on her client, and he turns into a chimpanzee. And I love
an episode of Married with Children.
What?
Repeat
did that happen? I couldn't hear you, Christopher. Say it again.
Repeat that again.
Yeah, that reminds me of an episode of Married with Children, because that was an episode.
I think I stole it from Civil Wars. Anyway, I got friendly with the snake keeper and the chimpanzee keeper. There were snakes in it, live snakes, and I had them. My lawyer takes out his briefcase and opens it up, and he says, well, I've got a few other things to put on the table, and he opens up the briefcase, and there are all these snakes squirming, and I'm not afraid of snakes at all. And these huge crew members, big grips with their shorts on, and it was freezing weather, macho guys are hiding behind the scenery because they're so terrified of the snakes. And I put my magic wand in with the snakes, and one snake came out on it, and then it put it up to my face, and the snake went, and I went back to the snake, and that's the take they used. It is so fabulous.
You are brave.
Oh,
Yes,
no,
you
no,
are.
no. I love snakes. Women have a
Right.
different relationship to snakes than men do. We love, you know, Eve, the first real woman, it was not Eve, it was Lilith, who was the bird and snake goddess. And women, I love snakes. I live in the top of a mountain, and when I just turned on the lights, there's a rabbit outside eating some of the vegetable scraps I threw out. And there was a rattlesnake that was right outside my porch, and it reared up like this because it didn't expect me to come out one morning. And I went, oh, and then he ran down a squirrel hole, and I got out all my fruits and vegetables and threw them out because I didn't want the squirrels to be trapped in the holes with the snake, you know. But you know, I'm not afraid of snakes at all. No.
Oh,
I mean, me neither. I love snakes too.
same. One of the final.
It's my Chinese zodiac.
What?
The snake is actually my Chinese zodiac on the year I was born.
You're a snake. How lovely. Okay, Christopher, what are you? Do you know your Chinese zodiac sign?
Don't really keep track of that kind of thing. I'd have to look it up right now.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay. How about you, Petey? Do you know it?
Yes, I do. I'm a horse.
Oh, so sweet.
Yeah, I'm a horse, actually.
Of course.
I'm a white tiger. I'm a metal tiger and my hour is dragon. So
That's cool.
Chris, you got a final question for Diane?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I was actually Year of the Ox. Turns out, by the way.
What?
Turns out I'm actually Year of the Ox.
Oh, Year of the Ox. Okay, that is very, very strong. You plod through everything and you get there. You're very reliable. Does that sum you up?
I don't know if I'm very reliable, but at least I'm incorrigible at times. So, yeah, the last question I had is, what advice would you give to inspiring actors or actresses out there?
Don't do it unless you absolutely have to. You have no idea what this is going to be like. And don't do it for the money. Don't do it for the fame. It is nothing to do with that. If you have anything else to do, do it. And if you can't think of anything else that you really love to do, then put your whole heart into it. Don't think of an alternative plan. Just do it.
Beautifully well said.
Mm-hmm.
And Diane, my final question for you is, what's next for Diane Salinger? And this is going to be the lead to my open forum segment where I have all the guest stars that come on. This is the part where you can talk about anything. You can hype, promote, say anything you want. It's an open mic. I'm passing the proverbial microphone on to you. The floor is yours.
Mine too.
Yep, it's all yours.
Go for it.
My passion project. And I think that ultimately I really am I was a writer from the beginning, and I just got waylaid for several generations. I love writing. I love being everyone in a scene. I'm writing this novel, and it's Joan of Arc and modern day, and it probably will be the future as well. And it's like a religious experience. Sometimes you get this in theater. It's rare in film and TV. Sometimes in theater, you're in the zone, you know, because it's all just happening. It's going one scene to another. You're not out of sequence. You're not stopping, having the camera get closer, having the camera get further away. Theater is extraordinary that way. I get bored with long runs, but I really love theater. And I do love my roles that I love in movies and TV too. But I have to say that with writing, you get into this zone, and it's really a spiritual experience. that you rarely get in movies and TV, and not even that often on stage. And I don't know that I'm good at it. I'm really, but I love it with all my heart.
Bless you. Bless you for saying that. And a couple of things I just want to say before we conclude, and that is, first of all, thank you for not only an amazing interview for you giving us today, but I also want to thank you.
Pleasure.
Anytime, and anytime I watch you, it's like I feel like I'm gonna sound like a broken record when I say this though, but at any performance you do, you have this incredible gift. I know, like, you don't have the powers like those powers like in Power Rangers, but you have this incredible gift where you could take a 33-year-old fan and bring him all the way down here and make him feel like a 10-year-old again, watching Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, watching Pee-wee's Big Adventure. You just have that incredible talent. And one last thing before we conclude though, and I will send you a copy of this interview as soon as it's done and edited.
How sweet.
Anytime.
You.
And I feel like you deserve this. I waited a long time to do this for you, and that is thank you, Diane.
I was gonna say one thing, but okay.
Diane.
I was gonna say one thing.
Diane.
All right, thanks, Diane.
Thank you so much, Diane. It was such a pleasure and honor.
It is such a pleasure meeting
I hope we get to meet next year on MorphiCon next year. That would be.
Well, this is going to be an incentive for me to get in. I'll see if my, usually they don't bring you back two years in a row, but I'll see what I can do, sweetie.
Okay, no problem. And again, thank you so much, and you have an awesome night. Thank you again, Kristen Kwame, for joining me.
No problem. I was going to say one thing, but I guess it's over now.
No, say it. Go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say, how did it feel when not Olympia. Yeah, Diabolico's spirit came back on the final episode, and he just went up. He just did the reverse Uno card on Banshiro. When she thought Diabolico was going to help her until.
Yes, I saw that today. I certainly had no memory of it. I saw it today to refresh my memory. I'm just being honest. I mean, you're doing a voiceover in a booth. I've never met the actors, It's part, I think, it's part of Queen Banshira's wound that she's been betrayed yet again.
Will we say it's the second time, or was it no, wait. Yeah, it was the second time, I think.
You know more than I. But
yeah.
She's been betrayed a lot. There's a reason for her anger. And she's taking back her power. Mm-hmm.
And she can also take it from anyone, like she did with Viper, to make her part of her, which was creepy, just a little bit.
Yeah, but she's really having fun most of the time. She really enjoys doing this.
She's a demon queen. I mean, she can do anything.
I mean, look at her final stage. I mean, this is the final stage of Queen Banshiro.
She's fabulous. She is so fabulous looking like that. Is there any way you could send me a copy of that?
Yes, I can.
That would be so wonderful, because I would take it into conventions with me. That is so beautiful, Petey.
You know what I'm going to do, Diane? I'm going to send you a copy of that picture in your emails with the interview itself.
Okay, beautiful. Okay.
Thank you so much.
À tout à l'heure. Au revoir, chérie.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.